welcome this morning. Good afternoon. Peace and shalom to each and every one of you. I hope that some of the truths that have been shared are helping you to live a better life, a more honorable life. Uh, it's really absolutely beautiful. The more that I look, the more that many things have been screaming at humanity for uh, quite some time that they need to look. And of course, it appears that it hasn't worked very well uh, because the only way one can look is when one recognizes that one needs to look. And so there's until that reality appears and manifests inside of somebody's mind, they can't see anything. It's funny because what we're going to read today kind of talks about some of this as if everything that I've been sharing for 6 months hasn't. But individually, each person has to make a decision about who and what they're going to be. And of course, it determines everything. We're kind of in the beginning stages. There's been several that have shared some pieces about pieces that are going to happen. There's a lot of planets that are moving into new places and cycles that are starting. And of course, if you have, we're always told that that's bad, and you have no interest in finding out what really has been controlling everything for as long as humanity's existed, then of course you wouldn't give that any credence. But on the other side, if you understand that that's always the way it's been, the only thing is that because of your belief system, you were told that it wasn't, that it was bad. And it's always bad to know what's coming for you. So it's quite humorous, really, on a sad kind of a way. So peace, namaste to each and every one of you. I hope that you guys are, as I said, experiencing some goodness. We're going to be looking at the teachings of Silvanus and the Nag Hammadi text. Certainly, there is a relative amount of overwrite in this specific book where you can tell that someone in a Christian persuasion has gotten in and dug up, but it's okay because all the things really, if you begin to understand anything, you begin to understand that all the things that are always have been. Solomon was absolutely correct. I showed you guys last week or the week before that Yahusha had been incarnated 3 separate times. And it's really funny, this week I was blessed to get a door to open and that the actual creator of humans, it highly appears to me, actually was very possibly an incarnation of him. There's a lot of correlations if it's not, and that's probably a hard picture for you if you still think that there's a single God up there and he loves you and everything's happy and wonderful. That's all concocted by mankind. None of it's true, nor has it ever been true. So when you begin to see what was really going on and how bad they've lied to you for upwards of 5,000 years in different manners, it's quite crazy. What it does is it takes it off of the external. I've been sharing that, and that's been an ongoing revelation. Many of the spiritual people are telling people that it's not the external, you have to look inside. Yahusha said it's not the external, you have to look inside, and that is a very true statement. But in reality, what does that mean? And so many aren't interested in finding out because it would just be too much work. And I don't have any interest to work. I just simply want free salvation. And so unfortunately, the universe is not welfare, and it never will be, and it never has been, no matter how many people have tried to sell that. So the teachings of Silvanus, there's a spirit thing that goes on that you can experience. It's really getting much easier to pick up on when there's dissonance in the air. Happens like that, and unfortunately, most of the time people aren't even aware of it. But it is real. And it certainly, definitely affects negatively. And so the teachings of Silvanus, he says, let your mind be your guide. one of the things, because we don't live in that time and people's hearts and minds are not in balance. In fact, they're highly out of balance. And it's so funny, you know, if you say those words today, what those words would mean and what they would have meant 2,000 years ago are not even remotely close to being the same. Everyone is already letting their mind guide them. That's the problem. So that then must be fixed contextually. And I think that those that will hear will, and those that won't, and they'll just continue on like they've always been. But it is a very strong statement nonetheless. And so he says, put an end to every kind of immature conduct. Acquire for yourself strength of mind and soul. So if you're a little confused as to why I've all of a sudden been talking about our higher consciousness and intellect and that coming from source, it's because that's the only thing that's important. And to people that that's not important to, they just are continuing to exist. Until it becomes the most important thing to you, you will just simply float through life. It's sad, but the spirit realm is kind of right in that when they tell you that they're just going with the flow. What going with the flow means is I'm not awake. I'm not smart enough to walk the path on my own. I want somebody else to do it for me. That's what that's all about. And so he says, put an end to every kind of immature conduct. Not somebody do it for you, you do it. And if you're not interested in doing it, then he tells you what comes with that. And acquire for yourself strength of mind and soul, and strengthen your struggle against every kind of foolishness. Strengthen your struggle against every kind of foolishness, consisting of the passions of erotic love, base wickedness, love of praise, ego, self-centeredness, self-consciousness, fondness for strife. I know a bunch of those people. Tiresome jealousy, wrath, anger, and avaricious desire. Guard your encampment with weapons and spears. That's how important this mind concept really is. Although it can only be if you accept that, if you can link and align and be in coherence with source and the divine plan that has always been laid out in front of humanity. You won't do that if you don't understand all of that. And arm yourself with all of the soldiers, which are words, with the commanders, which are counsels, and with your mind as a guiding principle. And so in their time, things were slightly different than they are in our time. The reality is, though, is that everyone is already being guided by their mind. That's like you trying to increase your frequency. Part of you is full consciousness that exists inside of you. That is God consciousness. You can't increase your frequency above that. It's a moronic oxymoron statement to say raise your frequency. You can't raise your frequency. All you can do is expose the frequency which you possess inside of you, but which you are not presently behaving with, or in alignment with, or in coherence with. In fact, you're quite contrary and dissonant to that spirit. And so a lot of people are really confused, and they're teaching and making millions of dollars off of ignorant people who don't have any interest to learn. They just want to find the cheap way to heaven, which doesn't exist and never has. And so we are to do these things, arm ourselves with all the soldiers, which are words. So the words that we say are the things that either protect us or destroy us. With the commanders, which are counsels. That's why you don't ever see historically There has always been a priesthood, and there have always been initiates or followers in that priesthood. It's the exact reason your secret societies will not let ignorant, moronic, non-thinking people in their congregations, because they don't have time to waste on stupid people. That's the reason for it. And so, and with your mind as the guiding principle. So if your mind is not right and in order, then your mind is going to lead you into things that are not right and not in order. And so, of course, you are, once again, creating your own reality, and you're doing it right out of the space between your ears. And so, my child, throw every robber out of your gates, guard all your gates with torches, which are the words, by these means you will acquire a tranquil life. Stop and ponder that. He just gave you how to do that. When people act in dissonant manners, when you feel that dissonant spirit, it's time to leave. It's time to find some place. Remove yourself from that presence. It's not going to do any good. I used to think, well, you tell them what the hell, how they're behaving, and somehow it's going to change them. And I find that they don't change. They just simply get mad and then talk about you to other people and get them mad at you. So in consciousness, it's like, see you later, hope you have a good one, but I'm not staying here, not around you. So guard all of your gates with torches. Wow. Which are the words, and by these means you will acquire a tranquil life. Carl Jung said it in a little different way. He said that there are many people that live their life, and they live their life going from drama to drama to drama to drama. They're not interested in tranquil life. They're interested in causing trouble, strife, and chaos everywhere they can, and they don't even care how they do that. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's great, but it's always going to manifest. And so, why? Because we are the creator. If what's going on is not bringing peace to you, then it's time to find someplace else to be. And so, but the person who will not guard these things will become like a captured city. So there's, for those that do, and I just want you to understand, because if you are the one that does, it's going to be very difficult, and you're going to have lots of struggles that you have to go through, mostly in quiet, about how to deal with this. And then, is there any value in it? Why is it that me trying to do right, I should have to put up with insolence and ignorance from people when I had nothing to do with it? And he tells us why, because we have the knowledge of what's happening or what is going to happen to them. And so he says, and by these means you will acquire a tranquil life. So if you desire a peace, if you desire to be peace, you're going to find yourself constantly getting up and leaving an area where it's unpeaceful. There's a song that Source brought to me this morning, and it's really crazy how many songs he's been using over the last several months, and usually it's just a line. I've talked to some of you, and you understand the pieces I'm talking about, but I woke up this morning, and this was on my mind. It's funny, Source using Jimi Hendrix songs, but he says, there must be some kind of way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There's just too much confusion, and I can't get no relief. That, my friend, is a very profound statement about the reality of those and those that aren't. Right there in a Jimi Hendrix song. If you desire peace, you must make it at all costs. Whatever you lose, and whatever you gain will be worth it. But you must do it. But the person who will not guard these things will become like a captured city, desolate and trampled by wild animals. For thoughts that are not good are evil beasts. Your city will be filled with robbers, and you will not obtain peace. So there is a fragment of life that says that you have to open your eyes and begin. I've been telling people this for a year. At some point, you have to begin to realize and accept the reality that people are what they are, and most don't have any interest to change. They will tell you they do, but they don't. Okay, they are in many cases are not aware, and if you made them aware, all they do is get mad at you. So why put yourself in the middle of someone else's unpeacefulness for no benefit? If there was a benefit, that might be a different story, but seldom is there in this situation. And so he said, but the person will not guard these things, will become like a captured city, desolate and trampled by wild animals. For thoughts that are not good are evil beasts. You want to know how to control your life? You control your life through your thoughts. The truth about how many situations that we as humans create, which are nothing but mind gasm, and that's why I said you have to be very careful with these concepts of mind, because the pre-required desire about a mind is a healthy, functioning mind, and we live in a society where most are not that. So that if you're not aware of that, then you might think that anybody's thoughts are right. And if you do, then I'm sad for you, but nonetheless. And so your thoughts that are not good are evil beasts. And your city will be filled with robbers, and you will not obtain peace. Only all kinds of savage thoughts. That's all you will receive. So that's why people that live in unrest and unpeacefulness, and this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go cause unpeacefulness with other people. This is talking about the unpeacefulness that is in you. The principle that whatever you are inside is what you really are, and that's what you are creating your reality with because of it, plays into a role. It was a given here. These people understood that principle. But it really, everything emanates out of what you are inside. And so your city will be filled with robbers, and you will not obtain peace. Only all kinds of savage thoughts. The evil one, who is a tyrant, is Lord over them. While he is directing this, he dwells beneath the great mind. The whole city, which is your soul, will suffer destruction. That's why it's not uncommon to hear even spiritual people say that you are creating your own destruction. You are destroying yourself. You are constantly in a pattern of every time anything good, you crush it and it leaves your life, and you go back to your unhappy, unpeaceful, woe is me, everything's everybody else's fault, yada, 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 thought processes you've been living in your whole life. And you will stay in that inevitably, eternally. And so while he is directing this, he dwells beneath the great mind. The whole city, which is your soul, will suffer destruction. Remove yourself from all of these things. You understand that? There is no other cure. O wretched soul, bring in your guide and your teacher. The mind is the guide, and reason is the teacher. We don't hear much about that. We had in America, we had a revival that went on for a while, and it was actually called in America, I believe in the 20s, in that area of time frame, and it was actually an enlightenment that went on in America, and it was called the Age of Reason. Go study, go research it, you will find out. People recognized that the way that they were living and the way that they were thinking and acting and behaving was unreasonable, and once they began to awaken and open their eyes and look inside and see that, it was very horrid to them. And so it spawned this whole age. Just so you know, all of those ages that have happened are all spiritual enlightenment steps in the evolution of humanity to bring us to the place in which we are. It's been going on. People don't see it. They don't understand it. Most don't even know that there was such a thing as a movement in America called the Age of Reason. And so the mind is the guide and reason is the teacher. So now let me show you why the mind is so powerful, because the mind is what guides you. If you say, I'm going to live my life and I'm only going to do what's right, and that becomes your guide, then that's exactly what you'll accomplish. If you are mindless and don't care about what your mind does, and you just let it have free reign, and whatever it tells you is true is your truth, then you're living like you are, because that's what your truth is. And you're just manifesting what you believe inside. And so they will bring you out of the dangers of destruction. What do? Your mind and reason. And so be a human being, not an animal. Listen, my child, to my advice. Don't show your back to your enemies and run away. Instead, go after them as a strong person. Don't be an animal with men pursuing you. Instead, be a human being with you pursuing the evil beast. So what are we talking about here? He's already told you that the evil beast are your thoughts. So the thoughts, the evil beast you're supposed to be pursuing is inside yourself. It's the problem. Lest somehow they prevail over you, and inevitably given time they will prevail over you, and trample you like a corpse, and you will perish through their wickedness. Oh, you poor man, what will you do if you fall into their hands? Watch yourself that you not be given over to your enemies. So the enemies of humanity, for the most part, is not external at all. It is only internal. It is only you. The devil is you. And so entrust yourself to this pair of friends, reason and mind. You ask yourself, well, now, is that reasonable for me to think that? And sometimes it can be as simple as just that break in thought process. But you have to be conscious to do that. You have to be conscious to even know that you should stop and ask yourself if this is reasonable. Most people are not very conscious, and so they just do what self wills. Self is the God, remember that. Self is your God. And it is the ultimate ruler of all that you do, unless you take that kingship away from it. And so, don't be an animal with men pursuing you. Instead, be a human being with you pursuing the evil beast, lest somehow they prevail over you and trample you like a corpse, and you perish through their wickedness. So do you see that in our mind we were made? Actually, there is a struggle that goes on constantly, because higher self is there, quietly telling you, don't do it, don't act like that, don't belay like that, don't have thoughts like that, don't do that, be kind, be loving, be good, be gentle, and you say, shut up, I don't care what you have to say, and you do what you want to do. That's the mind ruling you. And so he says, oh, poor man, what will you do if you fall into their hands? Watch yourself that you be not given over to your enemy. And your enemies are not external enemies. If you read this in a Christian church, they would look across the room and they would hate somebody that goes to church with them. That person that goes to church with them is probably exposing what they are inside, and that's why they hate them as well. It's really, really amazing. I used to watch this stuff that I'm learning. I watched it in Christianity for a lot of years, and it's the most polluted concept that exists today. And so he says, entrust yourself to this pair of friends, reason and mind. Is it reasonable for me to have the thoughts that I'm having? Somebody smacked you in the face, and inside you had a thought of wanting to smack them back. You ask yourself, is it reasonable? And you could actually justify, well, yes, in reality, it would be understandable for me want to do that. And then comes, of course, the but. But I'm making a choice not to. And of course, if you don't ever have conversations with self, then you don't even know who self is. I know self more than you know self, in many cases. And so, may God dwell in your camp. May his spirit protect your gates, and may the divine mind protect the walls. Well, what is the divine mind? The divine mind is the higher conscious intellect and intelligence that I keep talking about that comes from higher self. Higher self is the divine mind. It will always tell you to do what's right. 90% of the time, you tell it to shut up and do what your mind tells you to. That's how humans live, folks. I'm sorry, but it's as real as anything that's ever been created. That's exactly how they do. And so, these things, this divine mind does what? It protects your walls. Doesn't say that it makes everybody behave like they're supposed to. Doesn't make anybody have consciousness. Doesn't make anybody be less self-centered. It doesn't do any of those things for you. It simply and only is a protectant for you. It keeps you from being part of their sickness, even if you're in close proximity to them. That's its purpose, is to protect you. And so let holy reason become a torch in your mind, which is why I said what I said a while ago when I made the statement about you must stop and ask yourself. That torch is the light that enters at the first. So when you encounter a situation, you either follow your mind or you expose the situation to the light, which is reason, and reason says don't do it, even though it's understandable why you would want to. Don't do it. Reason says it's not going to benefit you. And so we must let that torch, what does a torch do? It lights the way in front of you, not the way behind you. And so if you're not holding reason in front of you and asking, why do I feel this way and why do I want to do the things that I do? Because inevitably reason is going to bring you right back to self and go, that's why. That's why. So, let holy reason become a torch in your mind, burning the wood, which is all sin. And yes, there is sin, friends. Sin is anything that is in uncoherence with source. There is only in alignment and out of alignment. There is only coherence and incoherence. There is no other thing, although we like to put lots of names on lots of things, but in reality, everything that we have ever encountered or will ever encounter over 10,000 lifetimes will all come down to there is only two ways. It is either in alignment with source or it's not in alignment with source. And what happens to you is determined by that. When you align everything that there is to source, no matter how bad you may have to suffer in the flesh, you will be the one that wins, and the others will be the ones that are tied up in their sin, if you want to use that term. So, if you do these things, O my child, you will prevail over all your enemies. So what does it mean? You might have to suffer a bit, but inevitably you'll be the one that conquers. We were made to be conquerors. We were made to be heads and not tails. But just because you were made to be that doesn't mean you will ever be that. That will only come as a conscious choice. Every second of every day for the rest of your life that you live will determine whether that is a true statement or not for you. And so, if you do these things, then there's an option that you won't. But if you do, you will prevail over all your enemies, and they will not be able to wage war against you. They will neither be able to stand firm, nor be able to get in your way. Why? Because I will walk around you. I will leave you where you are so that I can continue on my path. And you'll be quite surprised how many people try to get in your path unconsciously because they don't understand these principles, and they are just being what they are inside, and they step in front of your path constantly. You have to sidestep them and keep going. In the past, I didn't so much sidestep them. I was more like push them out of the way and keep walking my path. And I understand that principle, and I understand that it definitely works, but it doesn't feed the soul as much. In fact, it opens the door for other thoughts, because now I've found a way how to control all of these enemies that try to get in my path and slow me down, and that then gets taken over by other faculties that we are also battling, like anger and resentment and hate and all of those things. And if you let them into the party, it works for a little while, but inevitably it's going to bring you back to the place of destruction. So you must fight those while you're fighting this. It's not a single stage war, folks. And if you don't see life as being a war, I'm sorry, nobody can help you. It's a constant battle. And so they will neither be able to stand firm, nor will they be able to get in your way. Did you notice he didn't push them out of the way? He willed them out of the way by his behavior. For if you encounter these, you will despise them as mere gnats. So there's no problem with you being conscious and looking and going, that's what this person is. Everything they've always done, as long as I've known them, has always been that way, and they're not going to change. And dealing with that, it just is. I mean, people are what they are. A few will change, most won't. But the question is if you're a changer, then are you going to receive the blessing that comes out of that? For if you encounter these, you will despise them as mere gnats. They will speak to you with cajolery and entreaties, not because they are afraid of you, because they are afraid of those who dwell within you, the guardians of the divine teaching. And so, my child, accept for yourself the education and the teaching. You must accept it. I can tell you 10,000 truths, and probably will today, and 99% of the people can't tell you tomorrow a single principle that I taught today. Neither can they show you by the changes in their behavior. And so he says, do not flee from the education and teaching, because even that is education and teaching. What it took for me to go from, I believe I can be a Christian pastor and help people change their lives, to people are what they are, and if they choose not to change their life, there's not any words that you can say that will help them. That's taken 20 years. And so, do not flee from the education and the teaching. For when you are taught, accept it joyfully. Well, thank you, Source. Now I'm not living under the pretext of thinking that people are going to hear truth and all of a sudden they're going to actually start doing right, or they got it, or they understood it, or they have a revelation, or they have any ability inside of them to change their self anyways. There's none of that pretext anymore. It's just simply, if they do, then they'll prove that they do, and if they don't be surprised. And when you are educated in any subject, do what is good. It really is that simple. The kingdom of God is in righteousness, peace, and joy. You won't have any peace and you won't have any joy without righteousness. And if you're in a situation around a lot of unrighteousness, then you probably have no peace and joy, even if you're doing right, except for the fact that you know that you're doing right. And sometimes that's all the peace and joy you're going to get until the situation changes. And so, when you're educated in any subject, do what is good. To those who know to do right and don't, to them it is sin. That's the perfect definition for what sin is. You will weave a crown of education by your guiding principle. So what weaves this crown? My guiding principle. What is my guiding principle? Alignment with the truth of source. And that will be what weaves the crown that goes on my head. Put on the holy teaching like a robe. Make yourself noble by your good conduct. Gain for yourself the austerity of good discipline. When you used to react like this and you don't, it's a long journey, but you can see change immediately. Even if it's not sweeping massive changes, you will begin to recognize, I would have handled that different a month ago. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to constantly continue to fight the battle that's inside of you. But the question is are you? Because if you are, you'll be changing. If you're not, you just say you are, which are hollow words, which means your whole behavior is hollow. And so gain for yourself the austerity of good discipline. It's all, we live in such a society where discipline is a discouraged thing. It's really sad, but it's pretty obvious if you look at our society that we are undisciplined. And so judge yourself like a wise judge. You call those things that be as though they are, in other words. Was that right behavior for me? Was that wrong behavior for me? And if you do that, it'll guide you through every step, every day of your life. If you don't, you will just continue to be what you've always been. It's really simple. You either do something to change or you stay like you've always been. If you are locked in your mind that the way you've always been is the perfect way that God wanted you to be, then by all means continue to do that. And if it's not true, big deal. They'll drag you by the neck and they'll throw you back into a human body and you can suffer another 70 years. Okay, good deal. Got it. Put on the holy teaching like a robe. Make yourself noble by your good conduct, and gain for yourself the austerity of good discipline. Judge yourself like a wise judge. Do not stray from my teachings and develop ignorance, lest you lead your people astray. Do not flee from the divine teaching within you. So thousands of years ago, before Christianity, they were teaching the divine in you. But straying from it is exactly what's going on when I say that you tell your higher self to shut up. It's there, but it's powerless. And the whole beauty of it is you make it powerful, not something else does. You make it powerful because it's important to you to be right. For your teacher loves you very much and will leave you a worthy austerity. Throw out the animal nature that is within you and don't give access to bad thought. For it is a beautiful thing for you to attain maturity by knowing the way that I am teaching you. It's really wonderful for me reading this because he keeps saying all the words that I say all the time. 2,000 years ago, he was teaching the exact same message, folks. It is good to rule over the few as you see it, and how much better it is for you to rule over everyone, since you are called exalted above every congregation and every people and prominent in every respect with divine reason. You have become master over every power that kills the soul. And the ruling over them doesn't have anything to do with you being their preacher or their guru. It has to do with you ruling over them because you are standing in a higher plane. My child, does anyone want to be a slave? Why then do you trouble yourself for the wrong reason? My child, do not fear anyone except God alone, the exalted one. Cast away from you the deceitfulness of the devil. Accept the light for your eyes and cast the darkness from you. Once again, whether you knew it and didn't, probably, everything in all of the Christian Bible that has to do with the devil is the adversary yourself. It always has been. They told you a different picture and you had no way to know that, but now there is a way to know that. The devil that you fear is who you are inside of you. And so accept the light for your eyes and cast the darkness from you. Live in Christ, and you will obtain treasure in heaven. Don't become a bag stuffed with many useless things, and don't become a guide for your blind ignorance, which is the whole reference I was talking to at the beginning when I said be careful about your mind and guiding you, because one must first be able to judge what the mind is. Is my mind taking me in a good place? And many times you'll know that it's not, and you'll follow it anyways. And so, my child, listen to my good and useful teaching, and bring it in to the sleep that weighs heavily upon you. Come away from the forgetfulness that fills you with darkness. So when you hear me, just so you understand, when you hear me use words about mindlessness and forgetfulness are synonymous. Somebody who forgets is weak-minded. That's mindlessness. And many people live their life with that, as the old saying goes amongst stupidity, that ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is just ignorance unless you're ignorant, and then ignorance may feel to you like it's bliss because nothing is affecting the wake up of your ignorance. And so, come away from the forgetfulness that fills you with darkness. For if you were powerless to do anything, I would not have said these things to you. So we're not powerless, no matter how much you may convince yourself that you are. That is just you functioning in ignorance, believing that you're powerless. It's not a reality. We are infinitely more powerful than we have any clue of. And that's what's really going to be heartbreaking here in a few years when the major final shift happens with humanity, is how many people who are going to cry and weep and moan. Listen, folks, they weren't playing games when they said that there will come a time when those that die will not be mourned for. It will be those who had to live through what's coming next that you should mourn for. It's very chaotic days are in front of us. The wonderful is that for those who understand the truths, it will be an amazing time. And for others, it won't be quite amazing at all. And so, come away from the forgetfulness that fills you with darkness. For if you were powerless to do anything, I would not have said these things to you. But Christ came to give you this gift. What gift did he come to give? He came to tell you that you were light, that you had the power inside of you, that God is you. You have the essence of the Anunnaki. Anki is what makes you divine. Why do you pursue the darkness when the light is at your disposal? Because it involves work to go to the light. Why do you drink brackish water when sweet water is available to you? Wisdom summons you. Wisdom summons you, and yet you desire folly. It is not by your own wish that you do these things, but it is the animal nature within you that does them. Wisdom summons you in her goodness, saying, "Come to me, all of you foolish ones, that you may receive as a gift, the understanding that is good and excellent. I am giving you a high priestly vestment that is woven from every kind of wisdom. What else is evil darkness except familiarity with forgetfulness? Cast your anxiety upon God alone. Do not become a lover of gold and silver, which have no profit in them. But clothe yourself with wisdom like a robe. Put knowledge on yourself like a crown." So I'm not being unkind when I say that you don't know because you don't look. You're not interested. You want somebody to tell you a few little pieces in an hour's worth of time, and past that, you're worried about something that is nothing but a distraction created to keep you in captivity. But you're ignorant to that as well. So, what an amazing piece. Come to me, all of you foolish ones, that you may receive as a gift the understanding that is good and excellent. I am giving you a high priestly vestment that is woven from every kind of wisdom. Vestment, clothes. You have a robe that you can either put on. Peter talked about that he must take this robe off. And I am giving, and what else is evil darkness except familiarity with forgetfulness? Can you cast your anxiety on God alone? Do not become a lover of gold and silver, which have no profit in them, but clothe yourself with wisdom like a robe. Put knowledge on yourself like a crown. And I would have you notice that all of these things she's telling us are all things that cannot be given to you. God is not going to give you wisdom. Sophia is not going to give you wisdom. You must find wisdom and put it on yourself. That's one of the biggest tragedies of the reality that we have been taught, which is they tell you God gives you these things and he doesn't. Never has, never will. Only those who receive them, because, and Yeshua did teach this when he said that it's only those who seek that find. If you're not seeking, if you are casually walking around letting somebody else do hundreds of hours of work for you and you don't have a knowledge one about what truth is, folks, I'm sorry, you haven't sought and you're not finding anything. It is a life of seeking truth. And then the universe works with us. So, these are yours. These are yours. I'm sorry, I did skip. Put knowledge on yourself like a crown. You do it. And be seated upon a throne of perception. It's very common for people to say, I'm all of a sudden seeing things that I've never seen before, although they are things that I've looked at thousands of times before, and something is different. Well, of course it is, because perception is starting to shift from what is not true, and there are many changes of perception. In fact, just about the time you get comfortable with a perception, if you are truly seeking, you will receive a new perception, and you will view things even differently from what you did before. It's constant and ongoing, folks. And so and be seated upon a throne of perception. So she's given us three things. We must put on knowledge like a crown on our heads, okay? We must clothe ourselves with wisdom. We must. And then we must find and seat ourselves on perception. Those are three simple things you could ask yourself about every situation every day. Am I? Am I? Am I? Am I? Am I? Relentlessly every day for now until your body ceases to exist. These are yours, so they are mine to have, but I still am told that I have to do it. In other words, they're available, but it's up to me to go get them. And if you're not interested in go getting them, it's too much work, you don't have time, you're busy with all the other things that are important to you, then you won't, and you'll never find them. And you will receive them again on high at another time. And so the concept there is when we leave this body and we return to full consciousness, we will already know that we already have those things and have had them forever. But they're non-existent to you now. And so the foolish person's folly. For a foolish person puts on folly like a robe. And like a garment of sorrow, he puts on shame. Those of you that are living in shame, it's not to be mean or offensive, but you're in shame because you keep putting it on. Really profound words here, folks. It's not for those who get offended. If you want to get offended, get offended. It's okay. You're just dying. But for those who don't get offended and who look and see and perceive, those people will be blessed immensely. And so, for a foolish person, puts on folly like a robe. They don't even think about it. They just put it on. And like a garment of sorrow, he puts on shame. Shame is tied to a foolish person also, so you know. He crowns himself with ignorance. That's all he's got. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to tell you how the world works. And seats himself on a throne of incomprehension. So do you see the defining line that wisdom is drawing here for us? Everyone has some things. The only question is what three things you have. If you have these three things, whether you admit it, like it, or don't, you're foolish. And if you have these three things, you are functioning in wisdom, whether you see it in that manner or not. Is irrelevant. And so, what do? They crown themselves with ignorance, seat themselves on a throne of incomprehension, since he is irrational. He leads only himself astray. How many times have I said that? You live in your mindless world and you don't care about nobody but you. That's all. That's all that's important. What do I want? I don't care how I made them feel. How do I feel? It's horrible. But it's everywhere. And so he leads only himself astray, for he is guided by ignorance. And he follows the ways of every passionate desire. Wow. Not only what the steps are, the pieces that lead you to know that. He swims in life's desires and has already sunk to the depths, thinking that he finds profit in doing things that are of no profit. The poor wretch who goes through all these things will die because he does not have the mind of a helmsman. So in other words, mindlessness, forgetfulness just allow you to flow. They allow you to wander with no responsibility, and it will lead you to destruction. There's another piece that is being said here about the other side, and that is they intentionally direct their life. That's the difference. So, the poor wretch who goes through all these things will die because he does not have the mind as a helmsman. But he is like a ship tossed to and fro by the wind, and like a loose horse that has no rider. In other words, I keep saying this today because some of you are encountered and inundated by people that are constantly throwing these clichéic words out, and the people who use these words are ignorant to what they even mean. It wasn't ignorance in the past. Everyone knew. You wouldn't have told an enlightened being that you were just flowing. They would have laughed at you and walked off. Because that simply means you're like a wild horse that's just running wild. Oh, I'm just flowing. Yeah, you are. Good luck with that. It wasn't a cool thing. It was a scourge. You were a mindless idiot if that's what you believed. And so the poor wretch who goes through all these things will die because he does not have a mind as a helmsman, or one that guides his journey of life. But he is like a ship tossed to and fro by the wind, and like a loose horse that has no rider. For this person needed the rider, which is reason. That's also why the ignorance in everyone telling you that you don't need anyone else to find all of this. If you needed no one else to help you find it, why haven't you already found it? because you'll never find it by yourself. No human ever has. Because if that was the case, the universe would not have sent Yeshua to tell us what we otherwise should have already known. It is meant to isolate you. It is an archonic structure. Spiritualism, modern New Age spiritualism, is an archonic device just like religion and just like government. And people are buying it hook, line, and sinker because it makes them feel good, not because it makes them be good. So, take for yourself Christ, the true friend, as a good teacher. Cast this from yourself, which had become a father to you. And you could use the concept there that you saw the other night when it was said that there was another being that Peter saw last Saturday. There was another being that Peter saw that was laughing at the crucifixion. And Yeshua goes, oh yeah, that was me. I was laughing. You stupid morons think that body means something. Ah, that's what I came down here for, was to tell you it doesn't mean anything. I'm really glad these ancient texts are bringing out who the true Yeshua was, because he was not Christian. So, cast this from yourself, which had become a father to you. For death did not exist at first, nor will it exist in the end. But since you cast from yourself God, the Holy Father, the true life, the spring of life, you have consequently inherited death as your father. And ignorance you have gotten as your mother. I thought that was quite profound. They have robbed you of true knowledge. My child, return to your first father, God, and wisdom your mother, from whom you came into being from the beginning. Return that you might fight against all of your enemies, the powers of the adversary that live in you. And just so you know, I believe he just confirmed what I told you about the war that never stops. My child, listen to my advice. Do not be arrogant, opposing every good opinion, but take for your teacher of divinity the word. What is it that will teach you divinely? The words, the logos. Keep the holy commandments of Jesus Christ. That's the Christian thing, the override. But it's irrelevant. And you will reign over every place on earth and be honored by angels and archangels. Then you will acquire them as friends and fellow servants. And you will get for yourself places in heaven above. Do not bring grief and trouble to the divine, which is within you. Have you ever done that? I would say if you are not actively attempting to not do that, then you do that always. If you are actively fighting to not let that happen, to not vex my divinity, my spirit, the Bible says, do not vex the spirit. Even if you are attempting to be that, you should improve as you go along, but you're still going to have mistakes. That's the piece where you cannot stop and put shame on, because you're not ignorant. You simply made a failure. You're not a failure. You simply had a fall down. You're not fallen. And all of those things may seem little, but they're huge in the way that a human recovers and how they not only view source, but how they view their self. And so then you will acquire them as friends and fellow servants, and you will get for yourself places in heaven above. Do not bring grief and trouble to the divine which is within you. My God, do you know how many people have never even considered that their behavior, if you took that one thing, I see millions of these one things. If you took that one thing every day and every decision and every thought you had, if you ran it past, is this going to affect, is this going to impact negatively the divine that lives within me? Which means out of alignment, out of coherence with source. That's really how you affect the divine. And if you asked yourself that 10 million times a day, you still wouldn't have asked too much. And so, do not bring grief and trouble to the divine which is within you. But when you foster it, request of it that you remain pure and become self-controlled in your soul and body. How many of you did that one thing? Father, I would desire that I remain pure in my soul and in my body. Father, today I want to be pure in my soul and in my body. Father, today I'm working towards being pure and in my soul and in my body, and all day long and all day long. That's what it calls being mindful. Full of a mind that thinks. Some say, well, I want to be mindless. I just want to chill out and be stoned and float in the world. You're free to do all of those things, dear one. Just understand that there's a price to pay for that. But when you foster it, request of it that you remain pure and become self-controlled in your soul and body. Then you will become a throne of wisdom and a member of God's household. So you do understand all of the humans who have ever incarnated all had the divine, and yet the divine was not enough to keep them from having to reincarnate because of their behavior. You understand that, right? Having the divine in you is not the same as functioning and being controlled by the divine that is in you. Those are two completely different separations. And people go, oh, well, how could someone be made to reincarnate if they got God in them? God lets you go. You don't have to fight with him about it. He's like, I put the rules out there for everybody to see, and you were too lazy to do it. So enjoy again, and enjoy again, and enjoy again, and enjoy again, and enjoy again. And Source doesn't weep a tear. He has joy for those who don't. You obviously aren't getting it. And so, we must request of it that we remain pure. That's a really profound statement right there, friends. That should inundate and overwhelm our life on a daily basis. Because if that's not in you, then all the rest is a sham anyways. You're just a thief trying to take what is the children's goods to yourself unlawfully. And become self-controlled in your soul and body. It ain't nobody else's fault. It's your fault because you did it. Then you will become a throne of wisdom and a member of God's household. He will give you a great light through it. And just so you know, when we return back to light, we return to light full. In the pleroma, we all become the same light, the source. But before everything else, oh my goodness, know yourself. So of all of the things that have been said, what is the most important thing? Well, at that concept, you would have to say, of course, I've said this a million times and it doesn't seem like it gets through very often, but the most important thing is you knowing yourself. Because it's only when you know yourself that you have a chance to love or hate yourself. And if you hate yourself, then you at least know who you are. And then if you are right and if you are true, then you will begin to work to not hate yourself. And how do you do that? You do that by changing yourself into something that you're not. And then you can love that because that you hated. It's really supposed to be pretty simple, but it seems way too dense for most people to get a hold of. It's a 5-second, two-year-old child teaching. If you don't like who you are, change it. And if you don't want to change it, then you don't care. I don't know how else to say that. But before everything else, know yourself. That is, from what substances you are and from what race or from what species. Understand that you have come into being from 3 races. From earth, from the formed, and from the created. The body came into being from the earth with an earthly substance, but the formed, for the sake of the soul, came into being from the thought of the divine. The created, however, is the mind that came into being according to the image of God. The divine mind has substance from the divine, but the soul is that which has formed from within. For I think it exists as a wife of what came into being according to the image. But as for the body that came into being from the earth, its substance is matter. If you mix yourself, you will get for yourself the 3 parts as you fall from heavenly virtue into earthly inferiority. And Yeshua taught those same words to be true, folks. Paul taught that you must die daily. He wasn't talking about your divinity because your divinity won't die. He was talking about you must kill your mortal flesh and all of its desires and all of its want tos and all of its I needs and all of it's their fault, and all of those things are what both Yeshua and Paul, and now we have Silvanus telling us the exact same words. The divine mind has substance from the divine. But the soul is that which he formed within them. For I think it exists as a wife of what came into being according to the image. And I think that's so beautiful because it's paring back a picture of our incompleteness and what they actually did to Adam by separating him in 2 pieces. Had nothing to do with the rib. That doesn't exist in any of the teachings about Adamus, which was his name, not Adumah, which is Hebrew. His name was Adamus, was the original name. Adamus is still channeling and has been for 35 years, telling humanity truths that nobody wants to hear. And so, for as the body that came into being from the earth, its substance is matter. If you mix yourself, you will get for yourself the 3 parts as you fall from heavenly virtue into earthly inferiority. If you are allowing your flesh to be as powerful as your spirit is, friends, you're doomed. I'm sorrowful. I'm going to say that, and I don't care who it makes mad. If you are allowing your physical matter-filled human self to control your spirit, you are doomed. It just is. That's why Yeshua said you must make this that's outside what is inside. And you must make what's inside this. So in other words, this must supplant this. That was the whole concept. I've talked to some people and they never understood what he even meant. Pretty sad, but I guess if it is, it is. So the divine mind has substance from the divine, but the soul is that which is formed within, and it is a wife. If you mix yourself, so once again, I want you to see, it's a question mark. It's not that that has to happen. It's an if. And the implication is you doing the act. No one can mix you. You must mix yourself. You're the one who says, myself is more important. Or your belief system is that my divine is more important than myself. That's why people don't fast anymore, because their flesh and their hunger in their belly is more important than any spiritual good they might get out of it. It wasn't that way. We are in the lowest realm of humanity that exists right now. And so, if you mix yourself, you will get yourself the three parts as you fall from heavenly virtue into earthly inferiority. Live in accordance with the mind. Don't think about the things of the flesh. Get strength for yourself because the mind is strong. So when I see people, it breaks my heart because people are so convinced at how weak they are. So convinced. Funny, another rock and roll song, a band, Rossington Collins, has a line in a song, and it says this. It says, if you believe that you are weak, then weak you surely will be. It's quite amazing how much truth was out there and how Christianity hated rock and roll, and I find more divine enlightenment in most of that music than I ever will in a Christian song singing about Jesus. Doesn't mean they all are. There's very many devil-worshiping people out there, but not all are. And so live in accordance with the mind. Don't think about the things of the flesh. Get strength for yourself with the mind. So how can we strengthen ourselves? Through our minds. Don't think about the things of the flesh. That's hard for us to do. Get strength for yourself because the mind is strong. If you fall from this other, you have become a female male. And I've said this, and I'm more and more pieces, including these when I was pre-reading this earlier. It's quite amazing to me. Folks, I honestly believe that this whole gender issue that's going on in our society is actually going to be proven out by the ancient texts as to where we are state-wise. See, what happens inside is what you present outside. So this is all stuff that's going on inside, and they don't know how to present it as a spiritual thing, so it comes out and manifests as a fleshly thing. Wow. If you cast yourself the substance of the mind, which is thought, you have cut off the male part and turned yourself to the female part alone. So I can say it in a spiritual concept that gender is actually a spiritual, mental outworking. And it's not the physical gender, it's the gender which is inside. That's why you notice when guys say, I am a girl inside, they never say, oh, well, there are some now that might, but in the past and always has been, a person who is a transsexual tells you that I have a thing like a boy, but inside I'm a female. And the key that nobody's paid attention to is the inside part. And it's a state of spiritual being. And what is inside and what you believe inside is what you will manifest to the outside. Even if you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have surgeries to make that truth that you believe inside of you manifest in the physical realm. It is manifestation at the purest sense. What you thought in your mind is what you created in your body. So, if you cast yourself out of the substance of the mind, which is thought, you have cut off the male part and turned yourself to the female part alone. You have become physical, since you have received the substance of the formed. When you cast out this last part so as not to get a human part, you have thus taken for yourself the animal thought and likeness. You have become fleshly by taking on an animal nature. It is difficult to find a psychical person. How much more so to find the Lord? I say that God is the spiritual one. Human beings have taken shape from the substance of God. The divine soul shares partly in him. Moreover, the soul shares partly in the flesh. You must make what's inside be what is outside, and you must make what is outside be what is inside. The base soul tends to turn from one side to the other. The base, the lowest form, turns from soul or spirit to flesh. It's actually not a misnomer when Madame Blavatsky taught this, Dolores Cannon taught this, that there are people that have no soul. I'm starting to see now that may not necessarily be someone who came from someplace else without a soul. I believe he just actually told us the pattern for losing your soul. So that means that it's a good probability all around us, or a large quantity of human bodies that possess no ability to access divinity. So, it is difficult to find a psychical person, how much more so to find the Lord? I say that God is the spiritual one. Human beings have taken shape from the substance of God. The divine soul shares partly in him. Moreover, the soul shares partly in the flesh. The base soul tends to turn from one side to the other. How would it seem to truth? It is good for you, O man, to turn yourself towards the human rather than the animal nature. I mean, the fleshly nature. You will take on the likeness of the part towards which you turn yourself. Once again, no one can turn yourself towards. I'll tell you something else. Once again, in what will you take pleasure? Did you wish to become animal when you came into this kind of nature? Wouldn't you rather take part in a true nature of life? Animality will guide you into the earthly race, but the intellectual nature will guide you to intelligible forms. Once again, back to the concept I've been talking about higher consciousness brings higher intelligence. They go together. You can't be higher consciousness and be unintelligent. They go together. Simply knowing God changes your intellect. And so, turn towards the intellectual nature and cast from yourself the earth-gendered nature. And you could do that, another one of those one thing. Am I functioning in spirit or am I functioning in flesh? You could ask yourself that 10 million times a day and you wouldn't have asked yourself too many times. Am I functioning in spirit or am I functioning in flesh? Are the thoughts and the wants and the desires and the needs that I have, are they spirit or are they flesh? And most people won't, because they know they're flesh and they don't want to have to deal with having to tell themselves that they're not spirit. So they just deceive themselves, which is what he was talking about when he said that you lead yourself through ignorance. So, if you are obstinate and live in the body, you dwell in a boorish condition. If you are obstinate and live in the body, you dwell in a boorish condition. When you enter into a bodily birth, you were begotten. When you were born again, you came to be inside of the bridal chamber, which that's a very long teaching to teach what Yeshua was really saying. Has nothing to do with going to a wedding. It is the reunion of self. And you were illuminated in mind. So whatever the bridal changer brings, which is the reestablishment of the male and the female aspects becoming one, which is what they separated with Adam and Eve, which was a metaphor, that they were separated. It wasn't taking a piece of bone out. That was written, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. It wasn't a physical thing. It was a spiritual thing. So that whole line was put in there to deceive you, so you would never see. What really transpired was that they took the feminine aspect, half of Adamic aspect, they took it away from me. That's why men are buttholes and they're mean and they don't care about other people. It's because they lost their feminine aspect, the ability to care and nurture and all of those things. That's what that whole macho thing is about. And you were illuminated in mind. These people that came into the bridal chamber were illuminated. So you could then ask yourself easily, can I be illuminated without being in the bridal chamber? And the answer is no. You can't. And there's so many people out there that'll sell you for $298 and $1,500 for a weekend survey so that they can tell you how to be illuminated. And I promise you they won't tell you that. So, be aware of the adversary. My child, do not swim in just any kind of water. And do not allow yourself to be defiled by strange kinds of knowledge. Don't you know that the schemes of the adversary are not true, or not few? Now, the adversary is certainly the adversary that's inside of you, but then there is a higher adversary, which is, you could call the devil, and Yahusha chose to call them the archons. Okay? And they are also your adversary. You could say the archons are the devil. But that would only be true in the fact that they're our adversary. But the adversary being spoken of here is the one in you, which is you. You are the adversary to your higher self. You want to know why you can't find your higher self? Because you control you. When you quit controlling you, you won't have a problem finding higher self. So, do you know that the schemes of the adversary are not few, and that he has a variety of tricks? They have especially robbed the foolish person. You know, he defined what a foolish person was, of the proverbial snake's shrewdness. For it is right for you to be in agreement with these two, with the snake's shrewdness and the dove's innocence. Otherwise, he will come to you in the guise of a flatterer and a true friend, saying, I advise good things for you. But if you received him as a true friend, you did not recognize this one's deceitfulness. For he casts into our heart evil thoughts disguised as good ones. Well, that's exactly how the archons work, friend. They put a thought in your mind and you buy it hook, line, and sinker because you don't have a balance of the spirit. He says that person hates you and you buy it. Oh, that person hates me. Happens millions of times every day. So he casts into our heart evil thoughts disguised as good ones. Hypocrisy is secure shrewdness. Avarice is conservative frugality. Love of glory is what is beautiful. Boastful and pride as great austerity. We have all those things that exist all around us, folks. It doesn't matter whether it's pride in America or gay pride. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's just avarice. Love of glory, we have that here, don't we? Conservative frugality, while we have people that have paid taxes their whole life that can't get insurance help, we give it to people who've never paid a dime. So boastfulness and pride as great austerity. Where do you see that? You see that at every football, baseball, and basketball game and every other sports event that exists. Every time they play one of them, you see that manifest. Boastfulness and pride. And they call that austerity. And godliness as great as, and godlessness as great godliness. Religion's really good at that. For the one who says, I have many gods, is godless, and he casts spurious knowledge into your heart disguised as mysterious sayings. Who will be able to comprehend his thoughts and various devices? For those who wish to accept him as king, he is a great mind. Wow. So it really comes down then to your choice and your ability to sit on the throne and perceive what reality is versus following your flesh who says, oh, I was moved, so that must be right. And so they will accept him as king. He is a great mind. My child, how will you be able to comprehend this one's schemes or his soul-killing counsel? How will you be able to comprehend it? For his devices and the schemes of his wickedness are many. Wow. And how will you be able to perceive in what garment he will enter you? Except Christ, who is able to set you free. He has taken on that one's devices so that through these he might destroy him with guile. For this is the king you have who is forever invincible. Against him no one will be able to fight or speak a word. This is your king and your father. There is none like him. The divine teacher is with you at all times as a helper. He meets you because of the good you have within you. And so Christ in you, the hope of glory, is exactly saying the same thing as higher consciousness in you. It's exactly the same. He never was a physical being. He only inhabited a physical being, apparently 3 times. So what's your speech? Do not put a malicious word in your disposition. For every malicious person harms only himself. Only a foolish person walks towards his own destruction, but a wise person knows his way. A foolish person does not keep from telling a secret. A wise person, on the other hand, does not blurt out every word, but scrutinizes those who hear. Don't utter every word in the presence of those you don't know. Wow. Do not trust anyone as a friend. And we'll pick up there next week. Wow. You know, it's so amazing to me that all of these people had so much guidance towards how to live and how to be. I often wonder, you know, what would the world look like now if this stuff hadn't been robbed from us, if they hadn't have burned the Alexandrian library, and if they had not have destroyed the things that were gathered together, the knowledge from the ancient, because the Sumerians, there was a king, Ashurbanipal, and he had set out before Alexandria did it. In fact, Alexandria is like a duplicate of Ashurbanipal, who was a king, and he set out to gain all of the knowledge that he could gain from all over the world. He had a library that they have uncovered. I think it has 700,000 tablets that they had gathered. What those 700,000 tablets are going to do and bring out is just going to be mind-boggling. The world is changing, friends. We've been lied to, and that lie is beginning to thin. at the same time, the pieces that are coming out of the truth of ancient antiquity are telling us that things are also changing in our time. So actually, they're not converse from each other. They're actually the exact same thing, just different manifestations. It's really funny. Enki, the god, if you would, of humanity, the creator of humanity, he left a letter when he left. Been really cool. Some of the things I've found. Enlil, the Anunnaki who decided to destroy the earth and took it before the council, although they've hidden it from you for over 100 years, he actually wrote a letter through a scribe, and the letter was to humans, and he apologized that he saw what his brother had done and how amazing humans were, and that he had acted out of fear. And that's how, well, first off, you're never going to find a God that apologizes for his bad behavior. So that should tell you something right there. They weren't gods. They never were gods. They are just beings from another eon. We know that there are multiple eons that were created that had kings and had rulers and had people. All of that stuff Yeshua was very clear to expose, as John was also. So what's happening is the reality of what they said is actually being exposed in a very, 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 very heavy archaeological pictures that are starting to come out. But it's quite amazing that Anki, the one whose DNA we have, when I say the word blood, it's not the physical blood. We have his DNA in us. All humans do. And we were genetically engineered, and then when we were too good, they cut off some of the DNA that in time may very well come back to light. So there's a lot happening. Gates are opening, and the portals are opening, and Anki said, I tried to protect y'all, but y'all are going to act in a certain way, and I'm not going to be able to protect you. And what comes through that portal, that's in front of us, friends. These were words that were written and recorded by him to a scribe. And he said, I am locking the door because they have kicked me out for saving you. But I'm telling you that door is only going to stay locked until y'all get to a point of destruction. And then what comes through those doors to humanity, I can't do anything about. That's pretty crazy. Why I understand, because humans are ignorant and they don't deserve to know the truth, is the scholarly picture. But it's quite amazing how much humans, unless maybe they're not humans, but scholars have hidden the truth from us. And of course, it's also even more that the archons are really good about making people not care about what the truth is. So I hope you guys will grab a hold of. Hope some of you are maybe spending some time. 5 minutes is better than no minutes. And inevitably, when this is all said and done, it's all going to validate itself anyways. Truth is truth, and it's always going to be truth. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or don't believe it. It's still truth. And so blessings to each and every one of you. We've been given a truckload here today. It doesn't deny anything that's been shared. It really just restates it in different versions with focus on different aspects. And so I hope you guys understand this isn't a game. And the reality that everybody in Christianity sat around waiting for, and I used to watch people get excited about talking about Armageddon, and it's funny, most of those people don't want to talk about the reality that now Armageddon is not the battle between humans. It's actually a battle for your soul. So peace to each and every one of you. I hope you guys have an amazing week. God is love. He loves everybody. But just because of that doesn't mean that everything is well. So seek your higher self, seek your higher self, seek your higher self. Kill your flesh and your mind. Is a massive lifelong journey, but it is the only journey that has value. Shalom to each and every one of you, and namaste.